Hello world, and welcome to Coding in After Effects ExtendScript series. In this tutorial, I want to teach you how to create a composition using ExtendScript. And what we're looking at right now is the After Effects CS6 scripting guide PDF on the After Effects ExtendScript language. So if you want to look up anything on how this language works, you can check out this PDF and it'll give you a pretty good idea of what's going on in detail. And as far as what I know, this is the most documented reference that Adobe has made regarding ExtendScript for After Effects. So what we're looking at specifically right now is the After Effects object model, and this model shows you how to access different parts of After Effects. And each one of these squares or boxes represent objects that are inside of After Effects. So on the right you can see system, file, folder, and sockets. These are all individual and standalone objects that you can access in Adobe After Effects. And what you have here on the left is application, project, render queue, settings, layers. And as you can see over here, you have a line kind of connecting each one of these objects to application. And this is basically showing you the hierarchy of the object model inside of After Effects. And you need to know how this works, because in order to access anything inside of After Effects, as far as layers and composition or anything that's connected to this line, you first have to go through this hierarchy and able to select it. So for example, if I needed to get to layers, I first have to start at the top of the hierarchy and then go down. So I would start off with application, and then the next thing I need to access is the project, and then the item, then the comp item, and then I'm able to access my layer, which I can either create a layer, modify it, or delete it, or do anything I can usually do in After Effects. The same thing goes with if I wanted to access my render queue. I have to go through the same process by first going to application, and then the next on the hierarchy is the project, and then I'm able to access my render queue. I know this sounds a little bit confusing, but if I show you, then this all makes sense. So what I have inside of here in that ExtendScript is I have a little reference to our add comp method that we need to use and able to create a composition. And these are just my arguments. But right now it's commented out and can't do anything with it, and I'll go into details in a second on how it works and everything you need to do to actually access it. But first I'm going to create a alert function, and inside of here I'm going to put in our first object we need to get to and able to get to our composition. And if we look back into our reference sheet, the first thing we have in our hierarchy is application. So first I'm going to access application, and then I'm going to go to project. So in able to access application, I just write app. And if I run it and go to After Effects, you see object application, which shows you or proves that this is an object. And if I need to get to my next object, then I write dot, and then whatever object I'm trying to reach next, which would be project. As you can see right here, application and then project. So if I run this, go back to After Effects, it's a object project. So let's look back into the PDF to see what we need to get next, which is item. So in here, dot item, item with an S. Run it. And we get item collection object. And lastly would be our composition that we need to access. So we no longer need alert. I'm just showing you that to prove that these are items and you are going through each item to access it. And what we're going to use to actually create a composition, like I said earlier, we're going to use this method called add comp. And each one of these words represent an argument, and these arguments are going to be the details we need to create our composition, which is first name, and then the width, and then the height, and the aspect ratio, the duration, well, how long I want my composition to be as far as time, and then the frames per second. So if I go back to After Effects, you can see we have no composition right now. So if I do everything right, and if I come back and run it, and if I go back to After Effects, a composition should be made. And as far as our name, we need to make quotes and then put in whatever we want to name our composition. I'm just going to call it main. And for my width, I'm going to make it high definition. So I'm going to put 920. For my height, I'm going to put in 1080. For my aspect ratio, I'm going to put in 1. And for my duration, it goes by second, so I want it to be a minute. I'm going to put in 60. And I want to make it standard film, so 24 frames per second. And if I run it, and I go back to After Effects, you can see we have the composition. And if I double click on it, open it up, and I push Control K, and we look at the details of this composition, you can see we have a width of 1920, height of 1080, frame rate of 24, and this is 1 second. So we did everything we wanted to do with our composition as far as like creating it, and this is basically it. I hope you learned something, and if you enjoyed this video, check out my other videos. I have another video on ExtendScript that's a little bit more beginner level, and if you want to know more about expressions, I got videos on that. Until the next time, peace out, world.